In a distant marketplace, where lives are bought and sold... A desperate human stands before a cage, inside... Three alien catgirls, their glowing eyes locked on him... The merchant grins, offering them for the highest bidder. But there's something he doesn't know. This human is no ordinary buyer. He spent his last credits, and he's willing to risk everything to free them... But is freedom really what they want... Or is there something darker waiting in the shadows? The human's gamble has begun. But will he survive the price of saving them? Stay tuned to find out, because nothing is as it seems... Asterisk, welcome to my YouTube channel, where we bring you thrilling tales from the farthest corners of the galaxy. I'm Peter, your voiceover artist, guiding you through this journey. Ready to dive into another HFY Sci-Fi story? Let's begin the story... Asterisk. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a golden hue across the bustling marketplace. Alien creatures of every shape and size were being sold, their fates sealed with the passing of each coin. The air smelled of spices, metal, and sweat. In the center of it all stood a cage, and inside that cage were three beautiful, glowing alien catgirls. Their blue skin shimmered in the fading light, and their golden eyes gleamed with curiosity. Yet there was a deep sadness that seemed to cloud their expressions. They had been captured... sold. And now they were being displayed like cattle at an auction. But today, something was different. Today, they weren't just another set of exotic creatures up for sale. A human stepped into the scene, his boots echoing in the marketplace as he made his way toward the cage. His clothes were torn, his face weary, but his eyes were full of determination. He glanced at the catgirls, their eyes meeting his. The merchant, a sly alien with a wide grin, noticed the human's gaze. He stepped forward, his voice dripping with salesmanship. "Ah, I see you're interested. These fine creatures are some of the rarest in the galaxy... Strong, agile... and worth every credit. You won't find anything like them in the outer systems. Not for a price this low." The merchant's grin widened, his sharp teeth glinting in the sun. The human didn't say a word. He just reached into his pocket and pulled out the last of his credits. His fingers trembled slightly, but he knew there was no going back. This was it. His last hope. His last chance. He walked up to the merchant, placing the credits into the alien's hand. The merchant looked at the credits, then back at the human, his eyes narrowing. "Are you sure? This is all you have left. Once they're yours, there's no turning back." The human didn't hesitate. "I don't care. I'll take them." The merchant let out a low chuckle. "Your loss," he muttered, but then he unlocked the cage, and the catgirls stepped out, their bare feet touching the ground as they were freed. The moment they stepped out, they eyed the human with curiosity... and something else. A hint of something dangerous. They had been in captivity for too long, and though they were free now, the weight of their past lingered. One of the catgirls, the tallest with long flowing hair, took a step closer to the human. Her golden eyes locked onto his, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. "Are you sure you want this?" she asked, her voice soft, but there was something in it. A challenge. A test. The human paused, unsure of what she meant. "What do you mean? Freedom?" "Comies with a price," she said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "You might have freed us, but you can't undo what's been done." The other two catgirls watched silently, their expressions unreadable. The human didn't know what to say. He had spent everything to free them, but he wasn't prepared for what came next. He shook his head, trying to push the feeling aside. "I don't care. You're free now. That's all that matters." But deep down he wondered, was it really that simple? Had he done the right thing? Could these catgirls, now freed, be trusted? As if reading his mind, the catgirl who had spoken earlier smiled, a sly, almost teasing grin on her face. You really think it's that simple? That just because you've spent your credits, everything's going to be fine? Freedom comes with a cost, human. And it's not always money that pays the price. Her words sent a chill down the human's spine. He had freed them, but now they were free to do anything they wanted. What if their freedom came with strings attached? What if they had plans of their own? Just as he was about to speak, a loud sound echoed through the marketplace. A blaring horn, followed by the shouts of the merchant's guards. They had discovered the escape, and they weren't going to let the catgirls go without a fight. Human's heart raced as he turned to the catgirls. We need to go ... now. The catgirls didn't need to be told twice. They sprang into action, but the human could see the hesitation in their eyes. Were they really running from the guards? Or was there something more to this? As they dashed into the shadows, the human's mind raced. Was this really what he had bargained for? Were these alien catgirls grateful for their freedom? Or was something darker at play? And why did that one catgirl's smile seem so ... Knowing? The sound of footsteps grew louder. The merchant's guards were getting closer. And in that moment, the human knew one thing for sure. He had made a dangerous choice. But what he didn't know was how dangerous it would become. Just as they reached the end of the alley, a figure stepped out of the shadows. Tall, cloaked, and mysterious. The figure smiled. Going somewhere? They asked, their voice cold and chilling. The human froze. Who was this person? And what did they want? ... The chase was just beginning. Naughty question for the comments. Do you think the human made the right choice in freeing the catgirls? What would you have done? Let us know in the comments below ... The alley was narrow, with shadows stretching far longer than they should have. The air was thick with tension, and the only sound that could be heard was the hurried footsteps of the human and the alien. Cat-girls. The figure in the cloak stepped forward, blocking their path. The human's breath caught in his throat. His eyes darted around, searching for an escape. But there was nowhere to go. The alley was a dead end, and the guards weren't far behind. Who are you? The human demanded, trying to keep his voice steady, though it shook with uncertainty. The catgirls stood beside him, their eyes glowing faintly, ready to spring into action. The cloaked figure chuckled softly, the sound echoing off the walls of the alley. It was a voice full of authority, but there was a hidden amusement in it. You really have no idea, do you? The figure asked, stepping closer. You think you've freed them, but you've only set the stage for something much bigger than you realize. The human took a step back, instinctively moving closer to the catgirls. What do you want with us? He asked, trying to sound brave. He had already risked everything to buy the catgirls' freedom, and now, it seemed, the world around him was collapsing. The cloaked figure reached up, pulling back their hood to reveal a face that wasn't quite human. The eyes were an unnatural shade of green, glowing faintly in the dim light. The figure's sharp, angular features seemed out of place on a human, and for a split second, the human wondered if he had made a deal with something far more dangerous than he had anticipated. I don't want anything from you, the figure said, its voice silky and smooth. But you've gotten yourself involved in something you don't fully understand. The catgirls. They were never meant to be freed. Their freedom was a mere illusion. The catgirls stood still, their golden eyes locked on the cloaked figure. The tallest one, the one who had spoken earlier, now stepped forward. You don't understand. We were slaves. We were captured and sold for the amusement of the highest bidder. You saved us. For what price, though, we don't know yet. The figure smirked. Oh, I know exactly what price he paid. But it's not money that you owe. It's your loyalty. You see, freedom doesn't come without a debt. And there are others ... People you don't know, waiting to claim what's owed. The human stared at the figure, trying to make sense of the cryptic words. "What do you mean?" he asked. "What are you talking about?" "I just wanted to free them." The figure's smile widened, but it wasn't a kind smile. It was dangerous, like a predator playing with its prey. "You think you can simply walk away from this, human? You think you can escape from the forces that control this galaxy? You've just made an enemy out of the wrong people." The human's heart pounded in his chest. The weight of his decision was crashing down on him. He had saved them, yes, but now it seemed like he had opened a door to a world full of danger and deceit. "Who are these people?" the human demanded, his voice sharp now, full of anger and frustration. "Tell me, who are you?" The figure tilted their head, studying the human with cold, calculating eyes. "We're the ones who control everything in the shadows. The ones who decide who lives and who dies. You think these catgirls are free? You think you've done them a favor? They were part of something much bigger, a game that you have no understanding of." The tallest catgirl stepped forward again, her eyes narrowed. "We never asked for this. This was not our choice, but now that you've freed us, you can't turn back. We're bound to a fate far darker than you imagine." The human was about to respond, but the sound of footsteps reached his ears. The merchant's guards were closing in. He had to act fast, but what was the right move? The cloaked figure raised a hand, and with a single motion, the alleyway seemed to grow colder. The air thickened, and the shadows twisted as if alive. "Run," the figure said, their voice sharp and commanding. "And don't stop running until you're far from here. But remember this: you can never escape the consequences of your choices." Without another word, the figure disappeared into the shadows, leaving the human and the catgirl standing. In the alley, "What now?" the human asked, his voice breathless. The tallest catgirl turned to him, her gaze intense. "Now we run for our lives and for yours." They started running, weaving through the dark alleys, the sound of the guards' footsteps growing louder behind them. The human had no idea where they were going, or what dangers lay ahead, but he knew one thing for certain: nothing would ever be the same again. And as they turned the corner, the human couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched by something far more dangerous than the guards chasing them. What exactly had he gotten himself into? And who were the shadows that controlled the galaxy? Naughty question for the comments. Do you think the catgirls are truly free? Or is there something darker waiting for them? What would you do in the human's shoes? Let us know in the comments below. The alleyways twisted and turned, narrow paths leading deeper into the unknown. The human's heart raced as he sprinted beside the catgirls, their lithe bodies moving with graceful speed. The noise of the merchant's guards was getting closer, the heavy clattering of boots against the pavement ringing in the air. But there was something else, a strange feeling in the pit of his stomach. Something wasn't right. The tallest catgirl, the one who had spoken so cryptically earlier, glanced back at him. Her eyes narrowed, her senses on high alert. "We're not out of danger yet," she whispered, barely audible over the sound of their footsteps. The human didn't reply. He couldn't. His mind was racing, trying to process everything that had happened in the last few hours. He had come to the marketplace to do something good, to free them. But now everything felt wrong. Suddenly, one of the other catgirls, a shorter one with bright purple hair, paused. She looked up at the human, her face a mixture of confusion and fear. "Where are we going?" she asked, her voice laced with uncertainty. The human didn't have an answer. He had no plan, no destination. All he knew was that they couldn't stay here. But the streets were unfamiliar, and they couldn't keep running forever. His mind searched for a solution, but every thought was clouded by the figure they had encountered earlier, and the warnings that had been given. "Just keep running," the human said, his voice firm. "We need to get out of this district fast. We'll figure it out from there." The group continued to sprint, but soon, the Sound of pursuing footsteps grew louder. The guards were relentless, closing the distance with every passing second. Then, just as the human thought they might be cornered, the catgirls made a sharp turn into another alleyway, pulling the human with them. This alley was different, darker, narrower. The walls seemed to close in around them. But there was no turning back now. They were trapped in a labyrinth of winding paths. "We need to split up," the tallest catgirl said suddenly, her voice low and urgent. The human stared at her, confused. "What? Are you crazy? There's no other choice," she snapped, her golden eyes flashing with determination. "The guards will be able to follow us if we stay together. It's safer if we split up." Before he could protest, the other two catgirls darted down different paths, disappearing into the shadows. The human's heart raced as he looked at the tallest catgirl. "You're sure about this?" he asked. She nodded once. "You go left, I'll go right. We'll meet up later. Trust me." Without another word, she disappeared into the darkness. The human hesitated for a moment, his mind racing, but he knew she was right. They couldn't afford to be caught. He sprinted down the left alley, his breathing ragged. The sound of footsteps echoed in the distance. He couldn't tell if they were the guards or something else, but the fear gnawed at him. What if this was all part of a bigger plan? What if they weren't really trying to escape, but leading him deeper into danger? He reached the end of the alley, panting heavily. Just ahead, a street lamp flickered, casting an eerie glow across the scene. The human scanned the surroundings, but everything was silent. Too silent. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the shadows, a cloaked figure, just like the one from earlier. The human froze, his heart pounding. This time, however, there was no smile. Only cold, calculating eyes staring back at him. "You didn't listen, did you?" the cloaked figure said, their voice smooth but chilling. The human stepped back, raising his fists instinctively, ready for whatever came next. "Who are you? What do you want from me?" The figure tilted their head slightly, as if amused. "What I want doesn't matter. What you want is irrelevant too, but you're in the wrong place. At the wrong time." Before the human could react, the cloaked figure lunged forward, grabbing him by the arm with surprising strength. The human struggled, trying to break free, but the figure's grip was like iron. "Let go of me," the human shouted, his voice frantic. But the figure didn't respond. Instead, they simply pulled the human toward the darkened corner of the alley. "Don't fight it," the figure said calmly. "You're already a part of this. There's no escaping what you've unleashed." The human's heart skipped a beat. What did they mean? What had he unleashed? A faint noise caught the human's attention. Footsteps. The sound of guards approaching. But there was something else too. A low growl, almost inhuman. The cloaked figure turned their head, and for the briefest moment, the human saw something flash in their eyes. A look of concern? Before he could make sense of it, a loud crash echoed through the alley. The cloaked figure turned sharply, pulling the human to the side, just as a massive creature lunged into the space they had just occupied. The creature was like nothing the human had ever seen, part beast, part machine. Its glowing red eyes gleamed with malice as it turned its attention toward the cloaked figure. "Move!" the figure shouted, shoving the human toward the end of the alley. "Now!" The human didn't hesitate. He ran, his legs pumping furiously. He could hear the creature's growls, the sound of its mechanical limbs scraping against the ground. He didn't look back, but he knew that whatever it was after him. And the catgirls. But as he reached the street ahead, he couldn't help but wonder. Was this chase all part of a bigger game? Was he running from one nightmare, only to fall into another? The creature was close, and the shadows seemed to be closing in around him. Could he make it out alive? Or was this the end of his desperate escape? Naughty question for the comments. What do you think the cloaked figure really wants? And what's that creature after? Let us know in the comments below. The alley stretched on endlessly, its walls seeming to close in around him, as though the shadows themselves were conspiring to trap him. The human's heart hammered in his chest, each breath harder than the last. He didn't dare look behind him, but the sound of the creature's mechanical growl was getting closer, its heavy, relentless footsteps shaking the ground beneath him. He turned a corner, nearly stumbling as his legs burned with exhaustion. His mind raced. Where was the cloaked figure? What had happened to the catgirls? He couldn't focus on anything except the sound of that terrible growl echoing down the alley. A loud thud shook the ground, followed by a crash of metal scraping against stone. The creature was getting closer, but so was something else. The humans. Breath caught in his throat. Through the murky shadows he saw a flicker of movement, another figure, running toward him. "Go, move!" The figure shouted, their voice sharp and commanding. It was the tallest catgirl, the one who had spoken to him earlier. Her golden eyes gleamed, her body lean and strong as she sprinted toward him. She reached him in a flash, grabbing his arm and pulling him toward an abandoned building nearby. He stumbled, nearly losing his footing, but the catgirl didn't stop. She dragged him into the darkness, her sharp senses leading them to safety. The human's chest heaved as they ducked behind a stack of crates, trying to catch their breath. He looked up at her, his mind still trying to piece everything together. "What's going on? What's after us?" She didn't answer immediately. Her eyes scanned the area, her ears flicking at the slightest sound. Finally she turned to him, her voice low and serious. "That thing ... it's not just some creature, it's a hunter. And it's tracking us. It was sent to capture us ... or worse." The human swallowed hard. Captured? He had freed them. He had given up everything to free them. And now they were being hunted? "Who sent it?" he asked, his voice tight. The catgirl hesitated before answering. "You don't need to know, not yet. You've done more than enough ... But the consequences of freeing us are just beginning." She paused, her eyes flicking toward the alleyway they had just run from. The creature's growl echoed faintly, but it was farther now. The human's mind raced, trying to keep up. What had he gotten himself into? The catgirls weren't just freed, they were part of something bigger, something dangerous. And he was tangled up in it. "We need to get out of here," the human said, suddenly realizing that there was no time to waste. If they didn't move now, they'd be trapped again. The catgirl nodded, her face hardening. "We're not out of danger yet, but we're safer here, for now." They stayed in the shadows, hiding as the creature's growl faded into the distance. The human could feel his pulse thumping in his ears, but there was no time to relax. They couldn't stay here long. He knew that. But as he looked at the catgirl, he felt an unspoken bond growing between them. She had saved him, but why? Before he could ask, the sound of distant footsteps reached his ears again. This time, multiple sets, the guards. The ones who had been chasing them earlier, they were coming back. The catgirl didn't hesitate. She turned to the human, her eyes gleaming with determination. "We can't go the same way. They'll be expecting us there." "Then what do we do?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. She grabbed his arm again, this time much gentler. "Follow me. And don't look back." The human didn't question her. He had no choice but to trust her. Together, they moved silently through the shadows, slipping between buildings and alleyways. The streets seemed to stretch endlessly, the city's labyrinthine layout turning the simplest route into a maze. The catgirl led the way, her steps light, her eyes sharp, as if she could see through the darkness itself. They reached a narrow, hidden passageway behind a row of ancient stone walls. The human stopped, trying to catch his breath, but the catgirl didn't stop. She moved quickly, urging him forward. The human followed, his mind a whirlwind of thoughts. There was so much he didn't know. The creature that had chased them. The cloaked figure who had warned him, and now the guards. Who were these people? And why were the Catgirls so important? As they continued through the passage, the Catgirl finally spoke again, her voice soft but firm. You still don't understand, do you? The human glanced at her, confusion written all over his face. What don't I understand? We're not just random slaves. We're part of something bigger, something dangerous, she said. And you've made yourself part of it now. You can't escape it. You're involved whether you want to be or not. The human's stomach sank. Involved? He had just wanted to do the right thing, to free them. But now it felt like he had stepped into a trap he couldn't escape. The passage led them to a small courtyard, an abandoned part of the city that looked as if it hadn't been touched in centuries. The Catgirl stopped at the entrance, her eyes scanning the area for any signs of danger. We need to stay here for a while, she said. It's safer. But it won't last long. The human nodded, but he could feel his mind spinning. He had saved them, but now it seemed like the real danger had only just begun. And then, in the distance, he heard it again, the growl. They had only just arrived in the safety of the courtyard, but the creature was getting closer again. Could they outrun it this time? Or would it catch them? And if it did, what would happen then? The courtyard was eerily silent, but the human couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. His eyes darted to the shadows, scanning for any signs of movement. The Catgirl beside him was on high alert, her golden eyes flicking around, as if she could sense something he couldn't. Every small sound made his heart race faster, and for a moment, he almost wished he could just disappear into the darkness. But there was no time for fear now. Not with the creature still hunting them. Not with the guards probably close behind. Stay low, the Catgirl whispered, her voice barely audible over the wind rustling the leaves. She stepped forward, motioning for him to follow. This place used to be a safe house, but it won't stay that way for long. The human nodded, his breath shallow. He followed her through the courtyard, trying to make as little noise as possible. The walls of the abandoned structure loomed around them like a maze of crumbling stone and forgotten memories. Everything felt out of place, like they had stumbled into a relic of some bygone era. As they moved deeper into the courtyard, the human felt a strange mix of anticipation and dread building up inside him. He didn't know who was hunting them or why, but he had a feeling he was going to find out very soon. The Catgirls weren't just any captives. They were part of something much bigger. I told you before, the Catgirl began, her voice low and almost reluctant. We weren't just slaves. We were soldiers trained for a war that was never supposed to happen. The human's heart skipped a beat. Soldiers? He repeated. What war? The Catgirl hesitated, as if considering whether she should tell him. You're not ready for this, she said. But then, with a sigh, she continued. The war between us ... and the rest of the galaxy, the ones who control it, the ones who are pulling the strings. Her eyes darkened as she spoke, a shadow of something much darker passing over her face. The human stopped in his tracks, his mind struggling to process her words. Wait a minute, he said, his voice shaky. You're telling me I just freed a group of ... trained soldiers? And now I'm stuck in the middle of a galactic war? She nodded grimly. It's worse than you think. We were meant to fight. For the highest bidder, yes, but there's a bigger plan. A game that's been going on for centuries. And you, human, are now part of it, whether you like it or not. The words hit him like a ton of bricks. He had wanted to help. He had wanted to do the right thing. But now he was tangled up in something far more dangerous than he could have ever imagined. Before he could respond, a loud noise echoed from the far end of the courtyard. The sound of footsteps. The human's heart skipped. Were they too late? Had the guards found them already? The Catgirl's eyes flicked toward the entrance. "They're coming," she whispered. "We don't have much time." The human's pulse quickened. "We can't stay here. We need to move." The Catgirl nodded. "Follow me. I know a way out." They started to move, but just as they reached the far corner of the courtyard, another figure appeared from the shadows. This time, it wasn't a cloaked figure or a guard. It was another Catgirl, one of the others who had disappeared earlier. The new Catgirl's eyes locked on the human. Her gaze filled with an unsettling mixture of recognition and something else, something dangerous. "Where do you think you're going?" she asked, her voice cold and commanding. The tallest Catgirl, who had been guiding the human, stopped in her tracks. "What are you doing here?" "You were supposed to be in hiding," the new Catgirl smirked. "I was hiding until I got word that you were freeing humans now." She turned her gaze to the human. "I didn't realize we were in the business of helping them now." The human's heart pounded in his chest. What was happening? Why was she talking like this? Why did she seem so angry? "I don't trust him," the new Catgirl said bluntly, pointing a sharp finger at the human. "He's not one of us. He's just a human, and we all know what that means." "Shut up," the tallest Catgirl snapped, her voice like a whip. "He's not just a human. He's the one who freed us. He's the reason we're even alive right now. You'd better start showing some respect." The tension in the air was thick, like something was about to snap. The human could feel the heat between them, the distrust, the animosity. He didn't know what was going on, but something told him that these Catgirls weren't just grateful for their freedom. They were caught in something far more complex. Before anyone could say anything more, a loud, mechanical screech rang out. From the distance, the creature was close. "It's here," the tallest Catgirl said, her voice low and urgent. "We don't have time for this." With no more words, she grabbed the human's arm again and pulled him toward a hidden doorway at the far end of the courtyard. The other Catgirl didn't follow. She stayed behind, watching them, her eyes full of suspicion. The human didn't stop to question her. He didn't have time. The creature was too close. He had to trust the Catgirls for now. They sprinted through the doorway into the darkness beyond, but as they moved, the human couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The Catgirl who had stayed behind, had she been playing them all along? Suspense. They were escaping, but where were they going? And could they truly outrun the creature? The chase had only just begun, and the answers the human needed seemed further away than ever. The door creaked as it slammed shut behind them, sealing off the courtyard and the pursuit that had been hot on their heels. The human's chest heaved as he tried to catch his breath, but the rush of adrenaline wasn't slowing down. He felt like he was running on pure instinct now, every nerve in his body screaming for him to keep moving, keep pushing forward. The Catgirl who had pulled him through the doorway glanced over her shoulder, making sure they weren't being followed. Her expression was tense, her golden eyes scanning the darkness ahead of them. "Where are we going?" The human gasped, his voice barely more than a breath. The Catgirl didn't answer immediately. She was focused, every muscle in her body coiled with readiness. After a long moment, she spoke, her voice cold but controlled. "There's a safe house nearby. We need to get there before they catch up." The human nodded, not questioning her. Right now, he didn't have time for questions. He had already crossed too many lines, made too many choices he didn't fully understand. But there was no turning back now. He had freed them, and now he was trapped in whatever mess they had created. As they moved through the narrow, winding corridors of what appeared to be a forgotten part of the city, the human's thoughts churned. What was this really about? The Catgirls weren't just slaves, and they weren't ordinary refugees either. They were soldiers, trained for something dark and deadly. And now, they were running from more than just the merchant's guards. They were being hunted by something far worse. Who were they? The human asked, his voice a little steadier now. The ones hunting us, I mean. The cloaked figure, the creature. And why do they want you? The tallest cat girl stopped. For a moment, her eyes narrowing in the dim light. You're really not getting it, are you? She paused, then continued. They want us because we're the last of our kind. The last of the soldiers they created for their war. A war that's been raging for centuries, only in the shadows, unseen by the galaxy. The human stared at her, confusion still clouding his mind. A war? Between who? Between the galaxy's ruling powers and those who are fighting to take control. The ones who control the economy, the politics, and the technology. They've been at war for a long time. And they used us, created us to tip the scales in their favor. We were bred for battle. But now they're trying to erase us. The human could barely keep up. So, you're not just some random group of slaves ... You're like ... weapons? The cat girl's eyes flickered with a mixture of bitterness and pain. Weapons, yes. But we were more than that. We were survivors. We were the last hope for the galaxy, but that hope ... that dream was stolen from us. Her voice grew quieter as she spoke, her gaze distant. The human didn't know what to say. He had freed them, thinking it was the right thing to do. But now, it seemed like he had stepped into the middle of a war he didn't understand. And the stakes were higher than he had ever imagined. They continued moving through the dark streets, and the human couldn't help but feel that someone was watching them. The hairs on the back of his neck stood up, and every small noise seemed amplified in the stillness. He couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't alone. Keep moving, the cat girl hissed, snapping him out of his thoughts. Don't stop, we're almost there. The human nodded, swallowing the lump in his throat. He wasn't sure where they were going or what was waiting for them at this so-called safe house. But he had no choice now. He was in it for the long haul. The escape was just the beginning. They reached a small hidden door at the end of the alley. The cat girl pressed her hand against the wall next to it, and with a soft click, the door swung open, revealing a dimly lit room beyond. Cat girl motioned for him to enter first, and the human did so without hesitation. The room was small but well hidden, with thick walls and no windows. It smelled of damp earth and old wood, but it was safe. For now, the cat girl closed the door behind them, locking it with a soft click. She turned to face the human, her expression hardening. We have to talk about everything. The human frowned, sensing the gravity of her words. What do you mean? She took a deep breath, then met his eyes. You're not going to like this, but you're already part of this fight. The moment you freed us, you became a target. A target for the people who created us ... and for those who want to stop us. The human took a step back. What? You mean I'm not just a bystander? You said I was part of this fight. What does that mean? She stepped closer, her gaze intense. It means they're going to come for you. For us. And if they find you, they'll use you to get to us. The weight of her words hit him like a freight train. He had thought he was doing the right thing by helping them, but now it seemed like he had opened a door to something far more dangerous. Before he could respond, the door creaked suddenly. The cat girl's eyes went wide. She moved toward the door in an instant, her body tense, ready for action. What's going on? The human asked, his pulse spiking. Who's there? The door opened slowly, and a figure stepped inside, a figure wearing a hooded cloak. The human's heart stopped for a moment. It was the same figure who had confronted them earlier. Did you really think you could hide forever? The cloaked figure said, their voice cold and emotionless. The human's blood ran cold. It wasn't over. It was just beginning. The cloaked figure had found them, and it was clear they weren't alone. The human had no idea what was coming next, but one thing was for sure. The fight for survival had only just begun. The figure stepped into the dimly lit room. their presence commanding immediate attention. The human's breath caught in his throat as the cloaked figure slowly removed their hood, revealing a face that was both familiar and foreign. It was the same figure who had warned him earlier in the alley, and now they were here. But why? The catgirl, who had led him through the winding corridors, stepped in front of him instinctively, her body tense. "What do you want?" she demanded, her voice filled with both suspicion and defiance. The cloaked figure smiled too calmly, and the human's stomach dropped. There was something unnerving about the smile, something that didn't belong in this world. "I told you before," the cloaked figure said, their voice cold as ice. "You can't run from this. You've already chosen your side. You think you can just save them and everything will be fine? You're in this now, whether you like it or not." The human's mind raced. Chosen his side? He had simply wanted to do the right thing. He had no idea that freeing the catgirls would lead to a battle with forces beyond his understanding. And now it seemed he was caught in the middle of something much larger than himself. "You didn't choose anything," the catgirl hissed, stepping forward. "You just freed us, and you're paying the price for your kindness." The cloaked figure chuckled darkly, shaking their head. "Oh, it's much more than that. It's about control, about the balance of power in the galaxy. You've interfered with something much bigger than a simple rescue mission. You've broken the rules. Now you'll have to deal with the consequences." The human couldn't comprehend what was being said. His mind was in a blur, his heart pounding in his chest. Control? Balance of power? It was as if the universe was playing a game that he didn't understand, and he was just a pawn on a board far bigger than he could imagine. The cloaked figure turned to the catgirl. "You should have known better," they said, their tone filled with a strange mix of pity and amusement. "You can't escape your past. You can't erase what you were created for. And neither can your human friend." The human bristled at the insult, but before he could speak, the catgirl moved again, blocking him from view. "You don't control us anymore," she spat. "We're free. You can't take that from us." "Oh, but I don't need to take anything from you," the cloaked figure said, stepping forward. "It's already been taken. You just don't know it yet." They reached out, their fingers brushing against the air as if drawing invisible lines. "You've already been marked, both of you. And there's no way out." The human felt a cold shiver crawl up his spine. "Marked?" he whispered. The catgirl's eyes widened with realization. "No, you couldn't have." The cloaked figure nodded, their smile widening. "Oh, but I could. The moment you freed them, the moment you made yourself part of their world, you were branded. Now you're linked. Not by choice, but by fate." The human's mind reeled. What did this mean? He had thought he was saving them, but instead, he had been dragged into a fight that he couldn't understand, against enemies he couldn't see. "We need to leave," the human said suddenly, his voice urgent. He turned to the catgirl, desperate. "We can't stay here. We can't trust them. They know too much." But the catgirl didn't move. Her eyes locked onto the cloaked figure, and for a moment, the human saw something he hadn't noticed. Before a flicker of fear, "I'm sorry," the catgirl whispered, as though speaking to herself. "I didn't think it would come to this." The human turned to her, confusion flooding him. "What do you mean? What are you talking about?" The cloaked figure raised a hand, stopping the catgirl from answering. "It's too late for questions," they said, their voice cutting through the air like a blade. "You're already part of the game now, and there's no way to turn back. The powers that control this galaxy, they've been watching you. You've made yourself a target, and now you'll pay the price for your good intentions." The human felt his stomach churn. The weight of what the cloaked figure had said settled over him like a suffocating cloud. He had thought he was doing the right thing. He had thought he could change something. But instead, he had just signed himself up for a battle he wasn't ready for. Why me? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper. "Why did you bring me into this?" The cloaked figure's eyes gleamed with something dark, something cold. "Because you were the one who freed them. You were the one who broke the chains. And that makes you important. Now you will play your part in the war that's coming." Before the human could ask another question, the cat girl stepped forward, her expression hard. "I won't let you hurt him," she said, her voice filled with a newfound resolve. "You've already taken enough from us." The cloaked figure smiled, but this time there was no warmth in it. "You don't get to make the decisions here," they said. "The game has already begun." With a final, almost dismissive flick of their cloak, the figure turned, disappearing into the shadows once more. The human stood there, motionless, his thoughts a whirlwind of confusion and fear. The cat girl turned to him, her face set in determination. "We can't let them win. But you need to know this. There are others out there who want to control you. They want to control all of us, and they won't stop until they get what they want." The human nodded slowly, the weight of everything pressing down on him. He had freed the cat girls, but he had also freed something much darker. Something that was now hunting them both: suspense. The human had no choice but to follow the cat girl's lead. But the path ahead was uncertain, and the dangers were only just beginning. Naughty question for the comments. Do you think the human can escape the consequences of freeing the cat girls? Or has he signed up for something far worse than he expected? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.